Hi, I'm Jenyce. I'm really excited for this interview. It's with my good friend, Derek Lacey. Derek is a sleep facilitator. He has been my sleep facilitator, and I've learned amazing concepts about sleep from Derek. He'll be sharing those with us today, and he'll be talking about his 5-step method, as well as his program, The Art of Falling Asleep. Here's Derek Lacey. I can't wait for you to meet him. Well, I want to welcome you, Derek Lacey, to Authentic Living with Jenyce. And authentic living is what all of these conversations are about, meaning to get to your true, authentic self, the self that lives on, the self that always was, always will be. And that takes a lot. But we as humans can take a few steps when we're ready to become more authentic. And Derek, so grateful to have you here today. You have taught me some brilliant ways of realigning myself to my soul, my spirit through sleep. Welcome, Derek Lacey.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's an honor to have you here today. So, Derek is a sleep facilitator. He is the founder of The Art of Falling Asleep and the 5-step method of sleep. So he aligns the mind, the body, and the nervous system to create a deeper and more meaningful experience to sleep. So why do so many people struggle to sleep, Derek?
Well, the earth has changed. The
Mm.
relationship to the earth has changed. The relationship to the sun has changed. And I feel like this is something that we've all acknowledged in our mind, but not fully embraced in the body and fully embraced what that really means. And it's kind of overlooked in the relationship to sleep and the relationship to what happens, this very slow process, the descending into sleep, and how this happens so gradually and autonomically in an unconscious way where we didn't have to manage that. And now we're in a situation where we have to manage this unconscious process because we're not given this long runway that we used to have where the sun just disappeared and we had no choice but to succumb to the magnetism within us that created. Whereas now the sun disappears and if anybody has any objections, please raise your hand. And we have the right to object to going to sleep now. And so it's created a very sharp turn into sleep. And you know what that's like if you're driving and you're going too fast and you've come up on your turn and you overlook that. It's just natural. You have too much momentum. And so you take another way there and you get there you get there a little later than you intended. The difference is when you realize that you were going too fast to take that turn, there's a little bit of understanding and patience. There's frustration that it's taking you longer to get there, but you understand why. And I feel like people they think that something's wrong with them. And then, of course, when you start to research what is wrong with you, you're told what you're missing. And so it's this relationship to the 90-degree turn that this is where it starts. And really coming into that awareness of what it feels like to be completely resolved and how to go from that point where you stop to resolve to that point where that turn is, and how to take that 90-degree turn and kind of soften it and understand the steps to get there, understand that rerouting process that you're taking. When that stop is appropriate for you, and then what the motions are for you to meet up with that future self of you who's completely resolved and separated from that day, from that path that you were on, that has the frequency of the day.
So you're talking about that future self, that self that is relaxed and easily falling asleep. Is that who we're talking about?
That's the one. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the one that's not struggling to get to sleep.
The one that doesn't know that not sleeping is even an option.
Ah.
One that just knows that is the primordial state, the inherent gift and ability, the coming from home, like knowing that as the place that it started.
Home.
Home. Yeah.
So is sleeping home?
Sleeping is home. Sleeping is home.
Could you go further into that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and if you look at it from a developmental state, like think about when you were born, and if you look at the youngest picture that you have of yourself as a baby, and then you look at yourself now and you think about all your life's experience, the thing that got you here to this moment is sleep. You could have meditated all you want, you could have eaten the best foods and exercised, done anything, but it's actual sleep that got you to this point. So from a developmental sense, from when you take like the development of a cell period, and there's an argument about how all of that evolved, but if you look at like a single cell organism, it was sleep that helped that evolve and develop and turn into a greater form of life. And so sleep, in any way you look at it, is developmental, it's evolutionary, it's a growing process. And so we're really learning how to be awake. And sleep is where you go, where you don't have to learn. Right? You're downloaded, you're dumped with that information.
This is such a different way of describing sleep than most of us are used to. And I think it totally makes sense, because when we sleep, our bodies heal, we rest, we rejuvenate ourselves. And this is what we're talking about. This is the science of sleep.
Yeah. The science of sleep is trying to tell us that, is trying to inspire us how to look at it from a spiritual perspective. From a sense of surrendering. Like the science is trying to show us that sleep is where you surrender, that it's your most natural state, and that there is no room for fear. There really is no room for indecision, right? Like what we're experiencing right now with a 90-degree turn is not natural. It's causing the illusion of choice.
The illusion of choice. Yes. So you're talking about back in caveman days, we had no choice really, because the sun went down. We couldn't function without the light.
Mm-hmm.
It was dangerous. We are not nocturnal beings. We are to sleep. This is natural for us. But now some of us just decide, yeah, just keep the light on all night long and keep it going because I've got work to do, or there's this party happening I don't want to miss, or maybe we had one too many cups of coffee during the day and our body is rejecting sleep because we have given it a chemical to keep it awake. So let's talk a little bit about that. A lot of people use chemicals to help them sleep if they have insomnia. What are some natural ways to help us sleep better?
That's a good question. And how I will answer this is by first kind of declaring like why I'm here, what I'm doing. And like the first 80% of my years as a sleep coach, it was really trying to help people, replace the coffee with green tea, get more sunlight, block blue light, some of the practical things. And but what it's different. It's different now. It's changed to where I want to inspire people. I want to inspire people to think a little differently about it, and instead of thinking about, because I feel like as a society we've become more educated on the sleep process. I feel like most people understand. Anybody who's struggling with sleep they have all the information that they need to learn more about what they can do to sleep better. But what I want people to understand is that when you learn how to resolve your own resistance, you can create any chemical within you that you want.
That's
Anything that you can take. Yeah, anything that you can take, you can experience. And the key to this is, if we had to like point to something, well, there's a lot of steps that I teach that are part of the art of falling asleep in the 5-step method. But this is something that anybody could look up and practice. But if you can learn how to get in an alpha brainwave state, and this is the key, because when you're not in an alpha brainwave state, you're in a completely different frequency. If you're in a beta brainwave state, and I'm showing you a canvas and asking you what you are seeing, you're going to describe this canvas, like this painting, in one particular way. But if I take you into an alpha brainwave state, it's like you're looking at a completely different thing, right? So your perception of what you were perceiving as a problem completely changes.
wow.
So if you're thinking about what is something natural that you can do, will change your state of being, and you're naturally going to produce a different set of chemicals, and you're naturally going to have a different perspective of the situation. And now you're naturally going to know exactly how to be, what kind of energy to proceed with. That's going to come naturally and come from the inside, right?
That is the most fascinating thing I've ever heard. I'm going to play that over and over again until it lands in my brain nice and solidly, because it's going to take that for me. But that's amazing. So there's a thing that I'm dealing with that keeps me awake at night, and I have a feeling that I'm not the only one. And that is, I have all these things to do. I have all these things that happen during the day. I have all these things that are going to happen in the next few days. And I find myself tossing and turning. It's not that I want to stay awake. It's that I have a lot in my mind. So from talking to you and working with you, I know some of the answers to this, but I would like for you to share this. That is, I want to get to that place where I am ready for those downloads, where I can just let go of all those things that are happening in my brain, in my mind. Could you give us a brief, I mean, I know you and I could spend like 3 hours on this Zoom call talking about this, but could you give the audience an idea of what your 5 steps looks like to be able to get there?
Yeah, for sure. And the first step is decision. And so what you described, and you said something that's very key. Like, you want to be able to go to sleep consciously. You want to be able to go to sleep. And so what you described is a situation where your subconscious mind is the one driving the car, right? You want to go in this particular direction. It's like you're sitting in the back seat, like, no, that's where we're supposed to go. But your subconscious mind is like, no, this is actually more important right now. And so the in the process of deciding, the guiding principle here is that the conscious mind has ultimate domain over all your decisions. And so whenever you are not grounded in your decision, it just means that your subconscious mind is carrying more energy, it's carrying more authority, more sovereignty. And that's in reverse order. That's not the way it was designed to be. But if you're not thinking about it in this way, then there's no separation. Your subconscious mind feels like your conscious mind. And it does, because you're all one. You're all one mind.
Yes.
But
there's awareness.
Yeah, there's no awareness of where, what is at the root of that thought. And so you're feeling this part of you that's trying to protect you and thinks that it's protecting you by thinking about all these things that you have to get done, that you didn't do, that if you don't do, these other things are going to happen. And now what you want to feel as a desire to sleep is felt as a determination to do all these other things, which then is absorbed as a determination to sleep, which just makes the act of sleeping even more difficult, because the subconscious mind is being misled and is accidentally focused on all of these other things that aren't helping. So the process, instead of teaching that whole process of grounding the mind, the simple concept here is that you're just taking back that energy from your subconscious mind and redirecting it to experience the sleep that you consciously desire. And so all you're doing is like taking the wheel back and explaining to your subconscious mind, hey, this is why it's more important. This is why it's more important to go this way. And but doing it, remembering that your subconscious mind is just your inner child that has a very good memory, a picture perfect memory of everything that's ever happened to you before. And it's trying to protect you based on all these memories, all these traumas that have taken place. And so it has the greatest of intentions. And so when you can learn to be in relationship to the fact that it's going to have different intentions than you, but that ultimately you're the one that knows what's best for you. And then ultimately, it's not helping you, like knowing the difference between, should I stay up later to do this one thing, or should I go to sleep? And because if you don't realize that there's these two minds working for you, then it's really going to feel like it's a conscious decision to stay up late and work on this one particular thing.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And I envisioned a small child, me being a mother, talking to a small child and kindly telling it, asking it, and explaining that what's most important right now is sleep, for lots of different reasons, and how wonderful sleep is. And that everything that we've done today can stay in today. Everything that we're going to do tomorrow won't happen until tomorrow. So let's just do this now. This is being present. And so talking to my other part of myself, kindly recognizing that it has good intentions, I think is also important in this process. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Oh, well said. I mean, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. But the key to this is knowing that, like, this is a relationship. It's not a trick. This is a relationship that you're developing where you're listening to your subconscious mind, learning how to listen to it because it's going to speak differently every single night.
Mm.
Every single night. Yeah. So the real art in this is understanding how to listen to it deeply and not just listen to the words that it's saying, but really listen to where that feeling is coming from. And then being in relationship to what it's like to have your subconscious, have your inner child hear and trust what you were saying, and then make that process somatic in the process that you're familiar with, which is grounding, the decision where we literally move. We stand in the place where we identify the subconscious mind and the inner child having this experience, and we join it in this space and we let it know, like, I hear you, I see you, I understand what you're concerned about, and it's okay. I get it. However, this isn't helping us. And it's time for us to sleep. But if you're ready, I'm going to give you that permission and you can leave that behind. And then you wait. You don't rush it, right? Because it's your nervous system still a part of this. So you can't just drag your subconscious mind around by the back of the collar, right? You wait and then and you learn how to earn its trust. And then you step over to what that section that is the center of this spectrum, the grounding zone, and you feel the charge, and you take this concept that we're talking about, because anybody can relate to this, but it's like you take this concept and then you bring it into your body and then you feel it.
So you make a decision with all of your parts.
You make a decision with all your parts, with your body, and what is happening, it's a transfer of energy from your subconscious mind back to your conscious mind.
And then what's the next step?
Well, the next step, by default, what this sets up is a release process. And so everybody releases in some way. They understand the helpful association between releasing and being able to fall asleep. So it's very natural for people to do yoga and, even meditate, stretch, breathe in, some kind of breath work. So releasing, everybody knows that releasing is helpful, but when you, and don't ask me how I got here. I mean, I got here mainly through download and a lot of experimentation, but what through experience I figured out is that it seems to be the case, the like a law, circadian law, that if you release after you decide, you're having a completely different experience, because once you make that decision to sleep and you're experiencing alignment with your conscious and your subconscious mind, well, now whatever your subconscious mind was focused on that it's not focused on, that's energy that's been liberated. Right. So if you're wanting to go to sleep, you're consciously wanting to have the experience of sleep, but subconsciously you're wanting to figure out how tomorrow is going to go. And once you communicate to your subconscious mind that thinking about tomorrow is not helpful part of the plan tonight, and now that it's focused on sleep, it's freed up so much energy that was being held in your body that now, without even having to, and you're not going to, you don't really know, right? Like when you're releasing, you don't really know what you're releasing. And so now you've liberated all of this energy. And when you stretch, when you breathe, now you're really releasing all the things that you couldn't possibly, it's unconscious energy.
Oh, beautiful, because I sometimes do exercise before I go to sleep, a stretching or a meditation or, whatever it is, a warm bath. And I always think that it's just physical, like it's just my physical body getting ready to sleep, but it's actually releasing at the same time emotions and thoughts and that energy is freed up, like you said.
Yeah, yeah. I was in a session before we got on the call, and the analogy that came up was like the energy in your body, the tension in your body that keeps you in the frequency of your day, that prevents you from entering the frequency of sleep, which is the frequency that allows you to not just fall asleep, but stay asleep. That tension, that energy, what we've been kind of programmed, trained to do by the standard outside in sleep advice is to, if that tension and energy was like a bear and we're sleeping in a cave with a bear, we're trying to calm that bear down. We're trying to relax that bear. We're trying to stop poking the bear so that the bear can fall asleep, so that we can fall asleep. Whereas in the art of falling asleep, you're asking the bear to leave the cave. So you're not just going in there and let me stretch and twist my body so that I can relax my energy. No, you're giving your subconscious mind permission to focus on sleep so that it in return gives you permission to release the bear outside of the cave into another area. So it's a real, it's conceptual, but everything becomes, that's the art in it, is that the concepts become somatic. And so you have to give the subconscious, if not, the subconscious mind is just going to hold on. If you don't give the subconscious mind permission, you could release, you could stretch all you want, but there's a certain aspect of energy that it's still going to be holding on to because it doesn't feel that it's safe to completely let go. So if you give it permission to let go, now you don't have to be so conscious about like, oh, I feel this energy from this argument I had with my sibling, and now I need to think about that energy in order to release it. And you're just limited when you have to think about the energy, you're limited because consciously you're holding on to it. So if you just give, it's a little counterintuitive, but if you give your subconscious mind permission to sleep first, now you can release a whole sum of things that you didn't even know that you were holding on to.
Yeah, one of the things that I really noticed that I do in the last few years is I review everything. I grade myself. It's like I'm a teacher reviewing my life for the day.
Yeah.
And there's lots of emotions that come up when I review. I'm really hard on myself. Yeah. And I never really understood that before I even recognized it until I started some of this work. Started working with you, is I see myself doing this. And so you talk about connecting with ourself. Are you talking about the conscious and subconscious parts of me?
That is the first step to connection. Yeah, because that the concept of connecting to yourself before sleep is a spiritual concept, and it's about connect. You described it at the introduction of like what it means, what is authentic living, and it's living as the person that the energy that you were, before you were given a name, and the energy that's going to move on when your physical body is gone. Like that is who you are connecting to. That is connecting to yourself. But you can't connect to that self if you're divided.
Wow.
So you're just aligning your human experience before you can connect with your soulful experience.
So the next step after, forgive me because I don't remember the order again, and I need to remember the order, is once we release, then what next? What happens next?
Balance.
That's it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of alignment, isn't it? It's kind of like,
yeah, it's a natural outcome of alignment.
mm,
Yeah. So, I mean, balancing is really just there's nothing assertive about it. The first two steps are semi-assertive, but balance is just it's like a waiting process.
waiting.
Grounding your decision, grounding your decision is the most important step. It's an intuitive process. When you learn how to do that, the rest of the steps are intuitive. But when to find balance is really just allowing, just giving your body, because the whole thing about falling asleep, staying asleep, and being able to create chemicals that you would take in an outside form using your own mind and experience of your body. It's all about giving yourself space, learning how to give yourself space.
Mm.
And we all know that experience of experiencing space and then being able to like proceed, execute an action and get the result that you're looking for. If you've ever listened to like a guided meditation, and then if you listen to like a Joe Dispenza meditation, and at the end of it, like you're feeling yourself like sort of a numbing energy in your body once you've been taken into an alpha brainwave state, and it just sort of feels like you fell asleep in a sense, and you experience that. Like you're listening to, it's a recording of Joe Dispenza. It's not even him live, right? Like it's not even real. You're listening to a recording of a real moment that you are bringing it to life. And now you're using your sensory experience to be taken into an alpha brainwave state and produce all these chemicals. But it's really just an illusion, right? You took yourself there. But this illusion of this recording of his voice and you experiencing that gave you space, that created the space. And so the process of doing this is creating your own space and understanding that you can, like understanding that you are just as capable of creating your own space as you are of having that space created for you by somebody else. And that's the key to all of this, right? It's just understanding that the reason it feels like you can't do it on your own is because you're forgetting about this concept of creating that space for you and giving yourself permission.
We have everything that we need with us at all times. That is one of the things that I am learning by all of these amazing thought leaders that I've been privileged to be friends with, like you, Derek, is that everything I'm looking for is within me. And sleep is one of the most powerful places to connect to those things that I need that are within me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And balance is giving yourself space because those things need space to become activated. Remember, it's a 90-degree turn that we're taking. So it's like if I created enough space for you, you might resist it at first. And this is part of the illusion. You think like this, I'm feeling this resistance. This must not be the way forward.
Mm-hmm.
But if included in that space was space for you to experience resistance and then have that resistance resolved, now all of a sudden that resistance that you're experiencing is the sleep. It is the same energy in the resistance is the energy of sleep. Instead of trying to create new energy that's the energy of sleep so that it overpowers the resistance that you're feeling. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing when we're reaching for a supplement, for a pill, for a guided meditation. And it's not to say that certain supplements may not be helpful, but I really don't, there's no way that any supplement somebody is taking is exactly the missing link for what they were doing, right? There are many things that can help you. If you searched on Amazon for a sleep supplement, your body could not process all the things that are scientifically proven to help you with sleep. So there's no way to know exactly what it is that you're supposed to be taking, anything. And then there's no way to know that whatever it appears, somebody will do a mineral test or a blood test, but you'll take that test from a state of fight or flight. We know so little. But if you get into an alpha brainwave state and you experience cognitive decision and release and then balance, you're going to be surprised at the chemical experience that you go through. And you'll see what I'm talking about, that you have your own pharmacy, like it's all available to you. But it's not hard. It's simple, but it's not easy, but it's simple. It really is simple. And it's not for everybody, but if it really resonates with you, if it strikes you as like, oh my God, like that feels so true to me, then it's like you've been invited to be responsible for your own transition into sleep, for creating that boundary and then creating the space for yourself. Because that is what I call the new kind of sleeping, where you, like, our ancestors didn't have to do a thing. They had no idea that not sleeping was like an option. Right? It was really, that part of it was really simple for them. So I hear.
So you hear.
So I hear.
So this energy thing, I am stuck on it. I am fascinated by it. I love it. And it's so correct me, please fix what I'm saying if it's not correct, please. So I heard you say that resistance, the energy of resistance, is the same energy. It's the same. It's going to be used to help me sleep, but it has to be transmuted. Is that correct?
Yeah.
It is correct.
That is precise.
Precise even. Yes.
That is precise. Yeah. Yeah. I'm feeling a strong metaphor coming through. Anybody who has eaten enough Mexican food understands that a menu will have like 30 items on it, but the kitchen only has like 5 ingredients, right? It's like meat, bean, cheese, tomato, sauce, tortilla.
Yeah.
Flour, corn tortilla. So it's sort of like imagine being in a restaurant and ordering the enchiladas and then the waiter brings a burrito. Right? And you're like, excuse me, like this isn't what I ordered. Oh, I'm so sorry. And then the waiter just turns around and then like doesn't even and just like takes everything off, cuts the burrito in half, rolls the tortilla and does its own thing. And you're like, wait a second, you didn't even take that. That's the burrito, right? Like, and so it's the same ingredients. What you're experiencing as resistance is the same ingredients as the sleep. It's just out of order and out of proportion a little bit. And so you're just redressing it.
Okay, so all of you that are loving all these analogies and metaphors that Derek uses, this is what he does. And you too can enjoy working with him and get all these amazing on the spot analogies. So good. All right. So you have a mission. It is to shift the understanding of why we sleep to begin with. This is your mission. And I would say that you are well on your way to accomplishing this, one person at a time. I do want to get into this though, because the end result, I believe, is what it's all of our goals. We're all striving for peace. We're all striving for bliss, that place of unconditional love, that place of bliss. From what I'm hearing you say, sleep is that.
Yeah, and sleep is the moment you decide. That's the whole experience. So the process of going to sleep is, this is what keeps right now the biggest problem that we're experiencing in the world with sleep. People are neglecting it. Every year, it's being neglected more. So whatever is happening, whatever the consensus advice is, outlook on sleep, whatever it is, it's not helping. It's not working. And so sleep is becoming less and less meaningful because it's just being seen as this unconscious experience, as if an unconscious experience, because we don't know what's happening, doesn't have any meaning. So when you can begin, when you go a little earlier and you realize that the moments leading up to sleep, instead of being filled with stress and fear, that there's just a lot of pleasure in that. And even in the resistance, there's a lot of pleasure in that resistance. There's so much pleasure in turning those enchiladas or the burrito into enchiladas. There really is. And when you learn how to feel the pleasure, then you realize that sleep starts the minute that you're deciding to take that turn. And that's where you experience the bliss, the conscious bliss. So there's so much bliss waiting on the other side of deciding and releasing. And then you experience like the balancing and becoming and the presence. And there's the conscious bliss. That's where the rest takes place. And that sets up the unconscious bliss.
There's so much right there to unpack. First of all, you gave us the rest of the steps. So becoming and being present after you're balanced. That is so close to that unconditional love, to that side of the scale that we're all searching for, towards that bliss. Becoming truth, becoming and being present. What happens when we get there?
Well, what happens when you're not worrying about all the things that you're worrying about? What happens when you forget who you are in the 3D world?
It's an evolution to the spiritual realm.
What happens when your body starts to react to the magnetism that's being experienced on the earth at that time? This is what happens when you become. It is a form. It's a form of presence, but this is where I call it like like pulling a Joker card when you're playing cards. And it's like, who do you want to become? What do you want to become in that moment? Is there a question that you have? Is there a place that you want to go? Is there a dream that you want to have? Is there a message that you want to be downloaded with? All of this takes place in the becoming process. But it's hard to describe. The first time I really experienced this I mean, it was mind-blowing because I realized you can go through a whole life without ever feeling this feeling. And we're just so used to carrying around resistance.
Mm.
We think that's who we are, but it's so the opposite. There's no greater illusion than thinking we are our experiences of life and who we think we are and who we think other people think that we are, based on a microfraction of perception of the world around us. Consciously, we have no idea what's going on out there. And why would we only be given access to such a small percentage of the realities of the world, and then programmed to experience a third of our life unconsciously? What's happening in that moment? And so that transition, that baton from consciousness to unconsciousness, that is the becoming. You're becoming the unconscious. You're stepping into the unknown that you're only supposed to know unconsciously, but consciously you feel it. Now, all of that takes place there. And it's can be sad in a sense to think that one could go through a whole life without knowing that feeling. And people always ask me, well, you can become at any time of day. Why are you prioritizing that so much? Like, why wait? And absolutely you can, but you can't fight circadian law. So as good as I feel right now, as in my body as I feel right now, if we just were to jump into the future and it were to be 10 o'clock at night, it would be a completely different experience, because now I'm not experiencing ultraviolet light. I'm not experiencing the level of cortisol that's natural. I'm experiencing the magnetism of the moon and the earth, and it's telling my body to release a totally different set of chemicals. So there's really only one time of the day where you can hit this peak experience of being a soul inside of a human being. And so the human being sort of becomes like the reporter who's like, a soul can't communicate. We don't really know what it's like to just be a soul, not using words and descriptions. So there's this moment where it's like you're a soul and you're a human, but you're not the identity of the ego, right?
Releasing the identity and becoming your authentic self happens then. Mic drop.
Boom.
Boom. There it is. Derek, thank you so much for being here with us on Authentic Living. Your message is profound, necessary for us to evolve and to understand how the human experience connects to our soul. So thank you so much, Derek.
May I say one more thing?
You may say as much as you like.
Well, I just feel like this is important, that the last thing I'll say about sleep, how we have this opportunity to use it differently, is that if you can sleep authentically, you don't have to try so hard to live authentically, right? That's where the authenticity is curated, is while you sleep.
Wow.
And living authentically becomes more of a default nature. And so we've been gifted this, however you want to call it, 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 hours a night for us to go unconscious. And we're not gifted that so that we could use that energy to go do more. We're gifted that so that we can learn more about what it's like to be us and have a more connected experience of our life in this human body, so that we can then connect to ourselves again and always, have that process enhanced. That's how sleep is here to gift us with its wisdom, is through this process. So that's all I wanted to say.
That's very important. And so it's like we're given a new life with more information every time we sleep.
Yeah. There's this whole life. Yeah. There's this whole nother life that's available to us. Yeah.
Thank you. Will you come back and talk with us again sometime soon?
Anytime. You can just call me.
Okay.
But if I see the phone ringing, if it's like a FaceTime or something like that, then I'll just know it's a podcast episode.
Yeah, it's just a podcast. Just be ready at all times. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Derek.
Yeah.
I'll be listing Derek's contact information, how you can join his group, and learn more about what Derek teaches, his website, etc., below the YouTube video, as well as on your podcast app. Thank you again for joining us for Authentic Living.
Mm-hmm.